Welcome to MaicaLan, the YouTube channel for bedtime stories designed especially for adults. I'm MaicaLan, and I'm so happy to have you here with me tonight as we unwind, relax, and prepare for a peaceful night's sleep. Before we dive into tonight's story, let's take a moment to truly let go of the day's worries. Take a deep breath, allow your body to soften, and let your mind quiet down. We've all had those nights where we gaze up at the stars, lost in the vastness of the universe, wondering about the mysteries out there waiting to be discovered. In our dreams, we often chase distant stars, hoping to find something extraordinary far away. But in doing so, we sometimes forget to appreciate the beauty of the present moment and the simple joys that surround us right here, right now. By the way, if you enjoyed last night's story and found it relaxing, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any upcoming tales. And before we start tonight's new story, be sure to share it with friends or loved ones who might also enjoy a peaceful bedtime routine like this. Sometimes, a calming bedtime story is all we need to unwind and drift into a restful sleep. Now, get cozy, relax, and let tonight's tale slowly lull you to sleep. The sun was beginning to set, casting its final golden rays over the tranquil garden. The air was calm, a soft breeze carrying the sweet scent of earth and flowers. This evening felt different, more peaceful, as if nature itself was preparing for something grand. A distant rustle of leaves, the faintest whisper of a breeze hinted at the arrival of the first rain of the season. You, dear listener, are invited to leave behind the worries of the day, to relax your body, to close your eyes, and to immerse yourself in this peaceful space. Let go of any tension, and imagine yourself here, in the garden. The quiet surroundings welcome you, and all that matters now is the present moment. Tonight, we will take a journey into the life of a gardener, someone who finds peace and meaning in the simple, yet profound act of nurturing a garden. Through this gentle tale, we will explore the rhythm of nature, the first rain of the season, and the lessons we can learn from observing the world around us. Let this story soothe you as you drift toward a peaceful state of rest. Describing nature before the rain. The sky above is starting to change color. Once a bright, clear blue, it is now softening into hues of gray and pink. The gentle light of twilight creates long shadows in the garden, casting everything in a calming, almost dreamlike atmosphere. Each leaf, every petal, seems to hold its breath, awaiting the touch of the first raindrops. The air is fresh, cool, carrying with it the faint scent of grass, soil, and blooming flowers. Birds chirp in the distance, slowly winding down their songs as night approaches. The wind picks up slightly, and the trees rustle, creating a soft, melodic sound. There's something peaceful, yet electric in the air. A quiet anticipation as nature prepares for the change, encouraging relaxation and imagination. As you settle in, allow yourself to fully inhabit this space. Imagine yourself in the heart of this garden, where the only sound is the whisper of the wind in the trees and the occasional call of a bird. The ground beneath you is soft and warm, the fragrance of the earth wrapping around you like a comforting embrace. Let your body relax, starting from your head, down through your shoulders, arms, and legs. With every breath, you sink deeper into the present moment, into this place of peace. In this garden, nothing is rushed. Time moves slowly, and every change in nature happens at its own pace, just like the process of falling asleep. And now, as we begin our story, feel free to let your mind wander, allowing the soft edges of the evening to lull you into a deep sense of calm. Part 2, The Sleep Story, 3.500 words. Introducing the gardener, 800 words. Our story begins with a man who spends his days tending to his beloved garden. He is a gardener, and to him, the garden is more than a collection of plants and flowers. It is a place where life unfolds, where each seed holds the potential for growth, transformation, and beauty. The gardener is patient, knowing that every plant has its own rhythm. He spends his days watching over them, pruning, watering, and nurturing the garden with great care. His hands are rough from the soil, but his heart is soft, deeply connected to the earth and the life it sustains. In his garden, he finds peace and purpose. There is no hurry here. Each plant grows in its own time, and he has learned to wait, to observe, and to appreciate the slow unfolding of life. As he walks through the garden, the wind gently caresses his face, and he feels a deep sense of contentment, knowing that the rain is coming soon. The gardener's connection to growth. The gardener's love for his plants goes beyond simply seeing them flourish. He understands that their growth mirrors life itself. Just as each plant grows at its own pace, so too do the challenges and joys of life come in their own time. He often reflects on how tending to the garden is much like tending to his own inner world. Patience, care, and understanding are key. Every plant in his garden tells a story. There are flowers that have bloomed late but with stunning beauty. There are young shoots struggling to take root but persevering with determination. The gardener finds inspiration in their resilience, reminding himself that in both gardening and life, the process is as important as the outcome. Tonight, as he looks up at the sky, he feels a shift. He knows the first rain of the season is approaching, and he can sense the anticipation in the garden as well. His plants have waited patiently for this nourishment, and soon, they will drink in the water they have longed for. The first rain arrives. The first raindrops begin to fall, soft and gentle, tapping lightly on the leaves and flowers. The sound is soothing, like the quiet murmur of a lullaby. The gardener stands still for a moment, closing his eyes, allowing the rain to touch his face. He breathes deeply, inhaling the scent of the earth as it mingles with the fresh rain. The soil, dry from the summer heat, absorbs the water eagerly. Each drop nourishes the garden, rejuvenating the plants and bringing a sense of renewal to the entire landscape. As the rain continues to fall, the gardener walks slowly through the garden, feeling the transformation take place. The leaves glisten under the water, their colors deepening in the twilight. Every corner of the garden seems to come alive, celebrating the arrival of this life-giving rain. The gardener's reflections on change. For the gardener, this rain is more than just a natural occurrence, it's a reminder of the inevitability of change. The garden needs the rain just as much as it needs the sun. Both play an essential role in the cycle of life, and neither can be rushed. As he walks through his garden, the gardener reflects on his own life. He remembers times when he, too, resisted change, wanting things to stay as they were. But just like the garden, he has come to understand that growth requires both sunshine and rain. The gardener takes a deep breath, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. The rain has brought with it a quiet understanding that everything, in time, will flourish if given the right conditions. As the raindrops fall gently around him, he feels a deep connection to the natural world, knowing that he is a part of this grand, ever-changing process. The gardener's initial goal. The gardener had not always been so patient. When he first began tending to his garden, he was driven by a desire for perfection. He envisioned a place where every flower bloomed brightly, where the trees were tall and majestic, and where every corner of the garden exuded beauty and harmony. He worked tirelessly, day and night, planting, watering, and pruning. His hands moved with precision, determined to mold nature into his vision. In those early days, the gardener's focus was on the outcome. He would walk through the garden, inspecting each plant, hoping to see rapid growth and vibrant colors. He would feel frustrated when a flower did not bloom as expected or when a plant seemed slow to grow. His dream of creating a perfect garden consumed him, and he found himself unable to fully enjoy the process. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the gardener began to notice something. No matter how hard he worked or how much care he gave, the plants followed their own rhythm. Some grew quickly, while others took their time. Some bloomed beautifully, while others remained small and delicate. Despite his efforts, nature moved at its own pace, struggling with nature and a shift in mindset. At first, this realization troubled the gardener. He would stand in his garden, hands on his hips, gazing at the flowers that refused to bloom or the trees that seemed to grow only inch by inch. He would wonder if he was doing something wrong, if there was more he could do to force the garden into the perfect oasis he had imagined. But over time, as the gardener continued to care for his plants, something within him began to shift. He started to understand that the beauty of the garden was not in how quickly it grew or how perfectly it matched his vision. The true beauty lay in its unpredictability, in the way each plant had its own unique path to follow. It was in these moments of reflection that the gardener began to see the parallels between his garden and his own life. Just as he could not rush the growth of a flower, he could not rush the experiences and changes in his own life. There were seasons of growth and seasons of rest, and both were necessary for a life and a garden to thrive. Slowly, the gardener's mindset shifted from one of control to one of acceptance. He no longer viewed the slower-growing plants as failures, but as reminders that every part of the garden had its own role to play. He began to appreciate the process of tending to his plants, rather than simply waiting for the outcome. Realizing the value of patience. As the seasons changed, so did the gardener's approach to his work. He no longer rushed through his tasks, but instead took time to enjoy the simple pleasures of his garden. He would sit on a bench under the shade of a tree, watching the sunlight filter through the leaves, casting soft patterns on the ground. He would listen to the birds singing their morning songs and feel the cool breeze on his skin. The gardener found peace in knowing that he did not have to force his garden to grow. The plants would bloom when they were ready. And in the meantime, he could find joy in watching their slow, steady progress. He no longer needed the garden to be perfect, because he had come to understand that perfection was not the goal. The goal was to nurture, to care for, and to appreciate the beauty that existed in every stage of growth. This newfound patience extended beyond the garden. The gardener began to apply the lessons he learned from his plants to his own life. He became more patient with himself and with others, realizing that everyone was on their own unique journey, moving at their own pace. He stopped trying to rush through life, and instead began to savor the moments, however small, that made each day special. The first rain as a symbol of change. One evening, as the gardener stood in his garden, the sky darkened, and the air grew heavy with the scent of rain. He looked up, watching the clouds gather, and felt a sense of anticipation. It had been a long, dry season, and the garden had been waiting for this moment, the first rain of the year. As the first drops began to fall, the gardener smiled. He knew that the rain would bring new life to his plants, quenching their thirst and nourishing their roots. But more than that, the rain symbolized something deeper, a reminder that change, like the rain, is inevitable and necessary. The gardener walked through the garden, feeling the cool raindrops on his skin. He could see the plants responding to the rain, their leaves lifting, their colors deepening. The garden seemed to come alive, as if welcoming the rain with open arms. It was a beautiful sight, and the gardener felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. This rain, he realized, was much like the changes he had experienced in his own life. It could not be rushed or forced. But when it came, it brought with it growth, renewal, and transformation. The gardener stood in the rain, letting it wash over him, grateful for the lessons his garden had taught him, finding contentment in the present. After the rain, the garden was transformed. The soil was rich and moist. The plants were vibrant and full of life, and the air was fresh and clean. The gardener walked through his garden, taking in the sights and sounds of this new, refreshed world. There was no need for perfection here, only the simple beauty of life unfolding in its own time. As he looked around, the gardener felt a deep sense of contentment. He had come to understand that the garden did not need to be perfect to be beautiful. It was the imperfections, the slow growth, and the changes that made it so special. The gardener smiled to himself, knowing that he had found peace in the process of caring for his garden. He no longer needed to rush or control. but could simply be present, enjoying each moment as it came. The garden had taught him the value of patience, of letting go, and of embracing the beauty of change. With a heart full of gratitude, the gardener sat down on his bench, watching the sun break through the clouds. The garden was still, peaceful, and alive. And in that moment, the gardener knew that he, too, was a part of this beautiful, ever-changing world. Nature before the rain. The garden, before the rain, had a stillness to it that carried both anticipation and quiet beauty. The sky was a soft shade of gray, and the light was dim, casting long shadows over the plants. Each leaf and blade of grass seemed to stand at attention, as if waiting for the first drop to fall. The air was heavy, with the distinct scent of earth and foliage lingering in the breeze. The gardener could feel the moisture in the air, the subtle changes in temperature, and the hush that often comes just before a storm. The garden felt alive, but in a way that was calm and patient. Birds flitted between the trees, their calls becoming softer as the sky darkened. In the distance, the low rumble of thunder could be heard, signaling that the long-awaited rain was finally on its way. The gardener stood still, feeling the anticipation grow within him, as if he and the garden were both waiting together for this moment of renewal. The arrival of the first rain. The first raindrop fell softly on a leaf, creating a gentle ripple as it slid down the surface. Another drop followed, and then another, until the rhythm of the rain became steady, like the quiet tapping of fingers on a window. The garden, moments ago still and silent, was now alive with the sound of the rain. Each plant seemed to awaken, their leaves trembling under the delicate weight of the water. The air was cooler now, refreshed by the rain's arrival. The dry, dusty scent of the earth was replaced by the rich, earthy smell of wet soil. The gardener breathed deeply, feeling the moisture in the air fill his lungs. There was something magical about this first rain. It wasn't heavy or overwhelming, but soft and nourishing, as if the sky itself was giving a gentle blessing to the garden below. The sound of the rain was a comforting one. It wasn't loud or disruptive, but soothing, like a lullaby sung by nature. The raindrops fell rhythmically, their soft patter mixing with the occasional drip from a tree branch or the gentle splash of water hitting a stone. It was a peaceful, tranquil moment, and the gardener stood in the midst of it, his heart swelling with a quiet joy. The connection between rain and growth. As the rain continued to fall, the gardener watched as the plants responded to the water. The leaves, once dusty and dry, now glistened with droplets of rain, their colors deepening in the twilight. The soil, which had been parched from the heat of the sun, was now soft and moist, soaking up the rain like a sponge. He knelt down to touch the earth, feeling the dampness between his fingers. It was as if the garden had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the rain to bring it back to life. The roots of the plants, hidden beneath the soil, were drinking in the water, taking in the nourishment they needed to grow strong and healthy. The gardener smiled to himself, realizing how much the rain meant to his plants. Without it, they could not thrive. It was a reminder of how important balance was in the natural world. Just as the sun gives life, so too does the rain. Each element played its part in the cycle of growth and renewal. As he stood up and looked around, he could see the transformation happening before his eyes. The garden seemed to be breathing again, its colors more vibrant, its leaves fuller, its flowers more alive. The rain had brought with it a sense of renewal, and the gardener felt deeply connected to this process. He understood that, just like the garden, he too needed moments of nourishment and rest in order to grow. The gardener's emotional transformation. As the rain fell around him, the gardener felt a profound sense of calm wash over him. It was as if the rain was not only nourishing the garden, but also soothing his soul. He closed his eyes and let the cool droplets fall on his face, feeling the tension of the day melt away. In this moment, he wasn't just a gardener tending to his plants, he was a part of the garden, a part of the natural world. The rain had a way of making everything feel softer, quieter, more peaceful. The sounds of the world seemed muted, replaced by the gentle patter of water on leaves and soil. The gardener's thoughts slowed down, and he found himself fully present in the moment, fully connected to the earth beneath his feet and the sky above his head. He realized that, just as the garden needed rain to grow, he needed moments like this to recharge, to reflect, and to find balance in his life. The rain reminded him that growth doesn't happen all at once, it takes time, patience, and care. And just like the plants in his garden, he too had his own seasons of growth and rest. The gardener felt a deep sense of gratitude for the rain, for the garden, and for the lessons they had taught him. He had come to understand that life, like gardening, was a process of nurturing, of giving and receiving, of patience and perseverance. And in this moment of quiet reflection, he felt at peace. The garden after the rain. When the rain finally began to slow, the garden was transformed. The plants, which had been weary and wilted from the dry season, were now full of life. Their leaves glistened with raindrops, catching the light from the setting sun, which had begun to break through the clouds. The flowers, once drooping, now stood tall, their petals vibrant and fresh. The garden smelled different too. The air was filled with the scent of wet earth and blooming flowers, a rich, sweet fragrance that seemed to envelop the entire space. The soil was dark and damp, the kind of soil that promised new growth and flourishing plants in the days to come. The gardener walked slowly through the garden, his heart swelling with a quiet pride. He had tended to this space for so long, nurturing it through dry spells and storms alike. And now he could see the fruits of his labor. But more than that, he could see the beauty in the garden's resilience, in its ability to bounce back after hardship, in its quiet, steady growth. He bent down to examine a flower that had just started to bloom. It was small, delicate, and perfect in its own way. The gardener smiled, knowing that this flower, like the rest of the garden, had taken its time to grow. And now, after the rain, It was ready to show its beauty to the world. The garden's renewal and rebirth. The garden, now refreshed by the rain, was a symbol of renewal. It was a reminder that every living thing needs moments of rest and nourishment to thrive. The plants had survived the dry season. And now, with the rain's arrival, they were ready to grow stronger, to stretch toward the sky, and to continue their journey of life. The gardener felt a deep connection to this process. He understood that the garden's renewal mirrored the renewal he felt within himself. Just as the rain had washed away the dust and dryness from the leaves, it had also washed away the worries and stresses of his own life. He felt lighter, freer, and more at peace than he had in a long time. As he walked through the garden, he marveled at the beauty of nature's cycle, the way the rain came when it was needed most, the way the plants responded with gratitude, and the way the garden, once again, became a place of life and growth. The gardener knew that there would be more dry seasons to come, more challenges to face. But he also knew that, like the garden, he had the strength and patience to endure. He had learned to trust in the process, to accept the ebb and flow of life, and to appreciate the beauty of growth, no matter how slow or unpredictable it might be. Finding peace in the garden, the stars began to twinkle faintly in the sky, each one a distant light in the vastness above. And the night deepened its embrace of the garden. The gardener leaned back on the bench, gazing up at the stars, feeling a profound sense of connection not only to the earth, but also to the universe. He realized that, much like the garden, the stars too had their cycles, quiet, slow, and constant. They were always there, watching over the world below, even if they weren't always visible. In the stillness of the night, the only sound left was the faint whisper of the wind through the leaves, occasionally carrying the soft rustling of creatures moving about. The garden was now at rest, replenished and alive with new energy after the rain. The gardener, too, felt a renewal within himself, a sense of calm that came from knowing that both he and the garden had found balance. Everything in the garden had its place, each plant, each flower, each leaf. The gardener understood that he too had his place in the larger scheme of things. He had nurtured his garden, but the garden had also nurtured him, teaching him lessons about patience, acceptance, and the beauty of slow, deliberate growth. As he sat in the quiet stillness, the gardener knew that this peace wasn't fleeting. It was a part of the cycle, just as the rain was a part of the growth. And as the garden had been renewed by the rain, he, too, felt a sense of renewal in his heart. The cycles of nature and life. The gardener began to reflect on the many seasons he had seen come and go. He remembered the harsh winters when the garden seemed lifeless, only for it to bloom again in spring. He remembered the hot summers, when the sun's rays baked the soil, and the garden struggled to survive, waiting patiently for the rains to return. And now, as the first rain of the new season had fallen, the garden was once again renewed, ready for a fresh chapter. These cycles of nature mirrored the gardener's own journey. There had been times in his life when things seemed to be at a standstill, when growth was slow, and progress seemed distant. But just like the garden, he had learned that growth often happens in the quiet moments, in the stillness, and in the waiting. He had come to realize that each season, each phase of life, had its purpose. The dry spells were necessary to teach him resilience. The rains came to nourish his soul, and the quiet times allowed him to reflect on what truly mattered. Just as the garden needed balance between sunlight and rain, warmth and coolness, he, too, needed balance in his life. Now, as he looked out over the garden, he saw not just plants, but the embodiment of life's cycles. Each bloom, each leaf, each raindrop was a reminder that life is always in motion, always changing, always growing, even when that growth is invisible to the eye. A message for the listener. Dear listener, as you listen to this story, I invite you to reflect on your own life. Just like the gardener, you are part of a larger cycle, a cycle of growth, change, and renewal. There will be times in your life when everything feels like it's standing still, when progress seems far away, and when you're waiting for the rain to come. But remember, the rain always comes, and when it does, it brings new life with it. Just as the garden goes through its seasons, so do you. There will be moments of sunshine and moments of rain, times of stillness and times of great movement. But through it all, you are growing, evolving, and becoming who you are meant to be. Take a moment to reflect on where you are in your own journey. Are you in a season of growth? Or are you waiting for the rain? Whatever the season, trust in the process. Trust that, like the garden, you will bloom when the time is right. And that every moment of waiting, every moment of stillness, is preparing you for the next phase of your journey. Let the sounds of the garden and the rain remind you that life is a process of continuous renewal. There is no need to rush. No need to push for immediate results. Everything is happening in its own time. And all you need to do is be present, to nurture what you can, and to trust that the rest will fall into place, inviting the listener into sleep. Now, as the night grows deeper and quieter, allow yourself to let go. Let go of the day's thoughts. Let go of any worries or concerns. And let the peaceful sounds of the garden guide you into a state of rest. Imagine yourself here, in this peaceful garden, where the only sound is the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze and the distant hum of the night. The air is cool and refreshing, and the earth beneath your feet is soft and welcoming. You are safe here, in this place of calm and serenity. The rain has passed. The garden has been renewed. And now, it is time for rest. Allow your breath to slow, your body to relax, and your mind to quiet. As you close your eyes, feel the weight of the world lifting off your shoulders. You are free to rest now. Free to let go and drift into a peaceful, deep sleep. Imagine yourself lying under the stars, surrounded by the beauty of the garden. The rain has washed away all tension, all stress. And now, you are left with only peace. Let your thoughts drift away, like leaves carried by the wind. and allow yourself to be lulled into sleep by the gentle sounds of the night. Good night, dear listener. May your dreams be peaceful, your rest be deep, and may you wake feeling refreshed, renewed, and ready for a new day, just like the garden after the rain. Thank you so much for spending time with me tonight. I'm MaicaLan. I hope tonight's story has brought you a sense of peace and helped you drift off into a restful sleep under the quiet, starry sky. If you've enjoyed these bedtime stories and find them helpful for relaxing your mind and easing into sleep, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a new episode. It's a simple way to support the channel and ensure you always have a calming story to listen to at the end of a busy day. I also have a small favor to ask. If you know someone, maybe a friend, a colleague, or a family member who could benefit from a peaceful bedtime routine, please consider sharing MaicaLan with them. A soothing story can make all the difference in helping someone unwind. And by sharing, you can help others discover a quiet space for relaxation and sleep, just like you have. Thank you again for listening and for helping grow this community of calm and restfulness. Wishing you a wonderful night's sleep, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next story. Sweet dreams, and may the night carry you into a world of peace and tranquility.